Hey everybody, I want to talk about a little bit of what I'm doing to spend my time, where obviously we have a lot more of it in over the last couple weeks. So probably haven't picked up books nearly as much as research, which is also not nearly as much as what I've been doing with some of these online continuing education modules that I've kept in my queue. So one of the first ones that I've been working on for a while was a shoulder seminar that was taught by a chiropractor named Michael Maxwell. Now, Michael Maxwell and another chiropractor up in the Pacific Northwest, Vancouver, Victoria area own a company called Somatic Senses. And when I do these reviews, I will disclose if this is something that I have purchased or has been given complimentary. So they have provided me this seminar complimentary, and the one of the things that they were looking for was some kind of critique or evaluation of the platform that they were using. And it's interesting that they've already changed it, which is pretty good. Just be able to put something out there in a beta format and get good feedback to make it better. But right now I've been rolling through it, watching a little bit every day, and it's interesting where Michael's someone I know for a long time. I have worked for him and Ben multiple times. Very, very good people and very, very experienced clinicians. And I'm very, very proud that Michael was recently promoted to an opportunity to be a DNS instructor, which is something that I know he was targeting for quite a while. But more importantly than that accolade was that this is obviously something that is a very common interest that I have, not so much to become an instructor, but rather the material, and to be able to see how those influences and material gets pushed through a lens that isn't necessarily commercially driven, meaning he's not representing DNS in this seminar. He's representing himself. He's representing Somatic Senses. And it's really, really important, I think, to be able to understand some of these very, very valuable, very, very excellent commercial models, but through the lens of someone that doesn't always represent that commercial piece. And I think that's a lot of the things that I've done, where there's certainly things that I favor very, very much, such as DNS. But if I discuss it, it's certainly not using any of their marks, but rather taking the concepts. And that's what I've really enjoyed. And it's almost like what Michael expected. He's like, you're probably just going to skip to the end and just watch. And that's one of the things that I think is of use if we're going to choose to engage with some of these continuing education pieces. There's a couple things to think about. And one of them in this case is I'm just going in as a voyeur. I just want to see someone who's very, very like-minded, using a lot of the similar methodologies and techniques that I would use, and just watch them do it a little bit differently. And in my case, it's sometimes when volume is lower, not that I'm not working, but maybe I don't work with a lot of different people at certain times of the year, particularly like through the NFL season, to be able to see some different indications and some different situations that these techniques can be very, very useful. So sometimes looking for a continuing education seminar or a book or even just a conversation, sometimes not so much to be convinced that what you're doing is correct, but rather an opportunity to just see how someone does it a little bit differently. And all of a sudden, there's things that you maybe used to do, and all of a sudden they're like front and center, and like, oh my God, like I can't believe I forgot how to apply that technique, or that's really interesting. Like that, if I had done that, I think I would have been able to help folks a little bit differently in some recent situations. So I very, very much enjoyed it. It's very, very dense, meaning you're not gonna get through this in one day. This was a live seminar that Michael taught, I think, a couple years ago. Information is still extremely, extremely consistent, and a lot of anatomy, a lot of biomechanics, and a lot of explanations of why and how. And then, of course, the part two, if you will, it's divided up into many different chapters, but part two would probably be more towards the manual techniques and the exercise techniques. It's bucketed into mobility and motor control. Lots of things that are very, very easy to funnel and to add to what you're doing. So sometimes you take a seminar to throw out some things. Sometimes you take a seminar to replace some things. And sometimes you take a seminar to support some things. And good things will happen anytime you can accomplish those things. Where I've talked about in the past, at least once a year, I'll try to take a seminar of something that I have the opinion that this is not useful information. This is not something that I'm gonna do, or what I have seen so far is probably something that I don't favor. And if you go in like that, nothing bad can happen. Where okay, you further learn and support that this stuff is trash and you're not gonna do it, or you find out that you're wrong. And I found both of those things have happened over the course of the different seminars and different books that, or even just conversations that I've had. And those are both very positive things. You either find out that you were right all along and you can feel stronger in your position, or you find out that you were wrong and you now have some really good things to get involved in. So, very different than some other shoulder seminars out there. This is definitely for clinicians, whereas, of course, anyone can get in there and purchase it. I would find it very, very strange as to why someone with a fitness background would be interested in this, but I have to be very, very consistent. I think everyone should know everything, and when that happens, we're able to keep each other accountable because no one can do everything. That being said, I think this seminar is primarily for clinicians, for people dealing with pain, people dealing with or that have a work setting where being able to spend time with a client to execute some very precise exercises that will then yield some very, very dramatic results. These aren't the only exercises that are out there. However, the more I think we found with some of the DNS exercises, which is a big part of the second part of this entire seminar, that if they take some time to coach, and they really take some. There's a significant combination of using your hands to support different body parts and having almost some very esoteric exchanges between your manual contact and the body's ability to centrate. And I think that can be very, very frustrating when you just learn the exercises, but not necessarily getting a strong background of how to use your hands to coach. And I think Michael does a very, very, very good job of that, but without only the assumption that joint centration and all that it means is the only thing you're targeting. There's some significant research that he goes through, some significant anatomy and biomechanics along with the neurology. And because it's a large seminar, large meaning maybe it's hard to count, but probably 25, 30 attendees, there's some good examples of different people that have different issues that can be used as examples. Everybody's jacked up usually in these types of seminars. So now that being said, that doesn't mean when you practice these techniques with each other, all of a sudden everything makes perfect sense. Because if you're applying a technique to someone that doesn't necessarily need it or doesn't have the indication for it, sometimes it's hard to gain the psychomotor skills to apply the technique, or to truly understand like what a stiffness feels like, what neurogenic tension feels like, what a capsular restriction feels like, and then start to create images from your hands into your head, and then apply an exercise that should be able to develop the proper adaptations for what you see in the evaluation. So I tweeted recently that one of the things that I'm taking the time is really appreciating of looking at shoulder motion and shoulder performance in multiple different ranges of motion. And what you'll find is if you keep looking, you may find a very, very significant change in performance, whether it be a strength test or a range of motion test. And that really should indicate that this is a centration issue and not necessarily a stiffness issue. Because if what you're looking for exists in one position, that means it's there. That means the length of the surrounding connective tissues is there. The capsular restrictions are not there, but the way the body and the brain carries that joint position is really your problem, and that is something that would probably fit more into a motor control category, something that we would term neuro-locked, or at least how I would determine that. Neuro-locked, which is really more a form of motor control, but maybe in a non-complex pattern. If something exists when you change positions, eliminate joints, and test active versus passive, any combination of those three is going to be something that can be trained with exercise. Now, if you do it all across the board and you never see what you want, then you'll treat it more as a stiffness or a length issue. And these are really things that were resonating with me because there's so many examples, and it's such a dense seminar with very, very good and very, very ideal categories of what we're looking for and what you do when you see it and what exercises you can apply there. I think is very, very useful. So again, I do think that this seminar is probably more for clinicians, but again, everybody should know everything so we can keep each other accountable. Just because everybody knows everything doesn't mean everybody should do everything. And again, that goes back to how do you spend your time? If you don't have time to dig in and make a lot of mistakes, it's going to be very, very hard to become excellent at something. So I'm not quite finished with the seminar yet. I've got one, maybe probably another day to look at it, but it's definitely worth giving a look. And it pushes me in different directions because there's a lot of things that I see, not that they were intentionally or ignorantly missed, but when you have these other indications, you see what Michael's trying to show you. I'm like, oh my gosh, imagine if you did this before you did what he's trying to show you. And I think when you put all those different modules together from other things, another line that I've said in the past is like the best seminars are where you pick up things that they don't want you to know. And unfortunately, there are many seminars where people are keeping secrets, and it takes a significant learner, a significant student to crack their code and why they're trying to keep secrets. I don't think Michael's doing that at all. But when you know other things, it should be very, very interesting to see how it all comes together. So Somatic Senses is the name. Somaticsenses.com is their website. There's 2 seminars up there because it's something that they just started, and it's something that I definitely recommend, and I'm looking forward to finishing it up, that seminar, in the next day or two. So I'm going to try to keep up with these on a regular basis, the different things. I do have some things that are going to be released. We'll try to talk tomorrow, the next day, when I have a good idea of what's going to be available. I just saw a trailer to not necessarily a DVD because we know DVDs are dead, but I think we have a cool way that we're going to try to get some of this content out there. So spending time when we have it, and hopefully have some things at a very, very reasonable price. All right. Well, somaticsenses.com, Michael Maxwell shoulder course. That was the review. Very, very positive, and hope you choose to give it a look.